In November of 2024, as President-elect Trump is determining all the people that are going to be in his cabinet and administration, there's been articles coming up about Trump going to implement a crypto czar, as you can see from these articles right here. And I'm 58 years old, and the first time I really started to hear the word czar being used was during Obama's administration. Now, czar being a Russian word, and even though it's typically the czars were before the USSR and Soviet communism, there is that legacy that it is Russian. And in the patriot community, there's a certain amount of head scratching. Why are Americans calling officials czars? But then I read Henry Hazlitt's Time Will Run Back, which was published in 1951, a good 17 years before I was born. And I came across this in that book. A temporary head was named for each industry. Someone jokingly nicknamed these heads the industry czars. That was kind of interesting. And again, this book is about Soviet communism taking over America. So there's a direct connection with that use czar, even though czars were before the USSR. So then it comes into question, just using the word czar, is that constitutional? And we look at Article 2, Section 2, and I believe this is where this paragraph 2, comes into play. He shall have power by and with the advice and consent of the Senate to make treaties, provided 2/3 of the senators present concur, and he shall nominate, and by the advice and consent of the Senate shall appoint ambassadors of other public ministers and consuls, judges of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States, whose appointments are not herein otherwise provided for, and who shall be established by law. But the Congress may by law vest the appointment of such inferior officers as they think proper in the President alone, in the courts of law, or in the heads of departments. So that gives a lot of leeway to the President to establish offices and officers under the executive department. And really what they're called, I think that's discretionary. But the use of the word czar, especially for people who understand what the class dictatorship is in communist doctrine, that it's a whole class of people like the civil servants. They're up there, they have power, they have privilege, and they think themselves educated and superior. And that word czar, even though it is discretionary, it does give us a picture into their mentality.